I want to talk about something we don't usually admit lives inside us. Pride, the first seven deadly sins. Not the kind where you're proud of working hard, or proud of your family, or proud of being better than you used to be. I'm talking about the kind that sits in your chest and whispers, I don't need help. I'm fine. I'm better than this. They are the problem, not me. And the crazy thing is, most of the time we don't even realize that it's there. Today's the first video in my 7 Deadly Sins series, and we're going to start with one that might actually ruin the most lives without anybody even noticing it. Pride. Pride isn't loud all the time. It's not always ego or flexing or acting like you're the best. Sometimes pride can look like isolation. It can look like refusing to apologize, refusing to admit that you were wrong, pushing people away instead of saying, I need you, and sort of pretending that you don't care when you really, really do. Sometimes pride is staying silent because being vulnerable feels like losing. And if I'm going to be real with you, there have been so many times in my life where pride was the shield I hid behind because the truth was too raw to look at. Times where instead of saying, I'm hurting, I need help, I said, I don't care. And every single time, that pride cost me something. Trust, peace, a relationship, myself. Pride likes to show up in the smallest moments. You know you're wrong in an argument, but instead of apologizing, you double down. You know somebody loves you, but instead of opening up, you shut down. You know you need help, but instead of asking, you drown quietly. We like to tell ourselves, it's fine, I'll figure it out. I don't need anybody else's help. No one needs to see me weak. And it sounds strong on paper, but really, it's fear wearing armor. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of being seen. So instead, we push people away, and then we complain about how we're so lonely. We sabotage connection, then blame the world for not understanding who we are. And that's pride. And I think one of the scariest parts about it is it rarely feels like pride in the moment. If anything, it could feel like standards or self-respect or protecting my peace. But sometimes it's literally, plain and simple, avoiding accountability. You tell yourself, I deserve better, but deep down you know you yourself weren't showing up either. You say, I'm cutting people off, but really, you're scared of being hurt again. And over time, you become distant, you become cold, you become untouchable. And it's not always necessarily because you're heartless, but because you're guarded. And pride convinces you the walls are necessary. Until one day, you look around and you realize that you've built them way too high, and nobody else can reach you anymore. Pride doesn't always destroy your life loud. It's almost always silent. You lose people slowly over time, Opportunities slowly drift away, joy slowly slips from your fingertips. Not because the world is against you, but because you wouldn't bend. And I think the truth is, most of us don't want that to be true. We don't want to feel small. So instead of saying, I'm sorry, I miss you, I was wrong, I need help, we stay silent. And then the moment passes and the relationship fades and the chances disappear and pride wins. Unfortunately, I've learned this the hard way. Sometimes the strongest thing you do is not hold your ground, but soften. Admit to fault, apologize first, put your ego to the side, ask for help. Let your guard down. Humility is far from weakness. It's choosing your growth over your ego, your connection over getting so defensive, and healing over being right. And honestly, I am still learning. I still make this mistake. I still fail. I still get in my own way sometimes. But I am trying, and that has to count for something. So if you're sitting here and any of this sounds too close to home, I want you to ask yourself, honestly, is pride keeping you from healing? Is it keeping you from reconnecting again, from loving, from growing? Is there someone in your life you owe honesty to? It could even be yourself. Because you don't have to stay stuck in that armor forever. It's gonna get heavy, it's gonna get lonely, and you deserve so much more than that. Sometimes the next chapter of your life starts with 4 simple words. I might be wrong. So maybe this is the real lesson about pride. Strength isn't pretending that you don't bleed. Strength is knowing when to take the armor off. It's being able to say, yes, I messed up. I could have done this differently. I could have handled this better. I still have room to improve and I still have things to learn. It's letting people in even when your ego wants to slam the door. And if you're listening right now, maybe this is your reminder that you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to win every single argument. You don't always have to be right. Sometimes the bravest thing that you can do, or the thing that takes the most courage, is being honest with yourself. And if pride has been steering your life lately, it's okay. You're human. You can start again. You can soften. You can choose humility and not weakness. But make sure you choose it in a way that makes you grow. Because the goal was never to be above other people. The goal was always to walk beside them. There's one more thing that I would like to say before I let you guys off today. Pride can look like ego and arrogance a lot of the time. It can also look like silence, staying in your room instead of admitting that you're struggling, or pretending you don't care when you actually do. Choosing distance over vulnerability is still an act of pride. And sometimes pride is the reason we don't apologize, even when we replay that situation in our head and we know what we should have done. But sometimes pride is why relationships die slow. Not because two people stopped loving each other, but because neither one wanted to be the first to say, "I'm sorry," or "I was wrong." And here's the tricky part. Pride always, always, always sounds reasonable in the moment. I shouldn't have to explain myself. They should already know. If they cared, they would reach out first. So we sort of convince ourselves that we are protecting our dignity, when in reality, we're just protecting our egos. And I'm not saying you should beg people to stay. That's never the right answer. I'm not saying you should let people treat you the wrong way, but sometimes the thing standing between us and peace isn't the other person. It's us, our actions, what we do. And if you've ever laid in bed at 2 a.m. thinking about everything that you said and didn't say, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think this is the most important part. Pride says, "I'm so much better than this." Self-respect says, "I deserve better than this." One comes from insecurity, the other comes from self-worth. I need you to remember that. Pride pushes people away, self-respect protects your peace. And a lot of us blur that line together. We call it knowing our worth, when really we're just afraid of being honest. We say, "I don't chase," but sometimes love, growth, healing, those things require humility. Thank you all for watching. Remember, pride doesn't define you, and as always, stay rolly.